Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Anubhuti. I like to talk about everything beauty related. Whatever products I use, I like to share my reviews on it. I have super sensitive skin, so my reviews are influenced by that factor. And also beauty is something very personal. So what works for me might not work for you and vice versa. I have been dipping my toes into project planning recently because I do like to get use out of my makeup collection rather than just running out and buying everything new. So if that is something you are interested in, please make sure to subscribe before jumping into the video. As you know from the title, today we are going to talk about my favorite fall eyeshadow palettes. In my day-to-day life, I end up wearing the cool tone makeup or just the neutral tones. I have a neutral undertone which leans towards cool undertones in the winters and warmer undertones in the summer. My makeup preferences are also influenced by that factor. I love cool tones on myself, warm tones not so much. So probably summer and fall is the only time I gravitate towards the warm tones. So yeah, without any further ado, let's talk about my favorite eyeshadow palettes. So these eyeshadow palettes are in no particular order. I'm not ranking these. These are just, I have grouped them brand wise. So then it's easier for me to go through them. And so yeah, let's talk about the first palette that I have to mention when I talk about fall. The first thing that immediately comes into my mind is Urban Decay Naked Heat. I have slept on this palette for really long time. I was contemplating because of the same reason, because I don't love warm tones on myself. So will I be able to get use out of it or not? And then I ended up purchasing this on Vinted, and I think it was a good decision at all because this is what I am wearing on my eyes today. When I got this palette in person, I found it prettier in person, and also this shade is my favorite. Amber, this is my favorite from the palette, so I would just keep this palette only for this eyeshadow. So yeah, Urban Decay Naked Heat. Second palette that I want to talk about is Urban Decay Naked Honey. I'm not sure if you can still get these palettes or not. Some places I can still see the Naked Honey is listed, and this one I have purchased it myself when the year it was launched, and you can all see I have very good usage on the shades. I am very light-handed when it comes to using my eyeshadows, but trust me, I have used it a lot. So then I absolutely love this one. This is like the mustardy honey version, like the name suggests. This is a Naked Honey palette. I absolutely love the tones of brown here. These are like some mustardy toned browns, which are quite unique in my collection, and I gravitate towards those. And there are a lot of gold shades, and each and every gold shade looks different when you apply them on eyes. And some of my favorite shades are this one. This is like the olivey gold shade, and then there is a yellow gold, like proper honey gold shade. I love this one. So yeah, Naked Honey. And another palette which I would like to mention in fall palette category from Urban Decay is beloved Urban Decay Born to Run palette. This palette made a lot of noises when it was released, and for this good reason. This has been in a lot of people's like best list, and I do understand why. I absolutely love this one. This is for me every shade I would need in a fall palette. For me personally, fall means warm tones and also grungy metallics. That is something I absolutely love. So, and this has everything basically. I absolutely love this one, although I'm a little bit afraid of using the brighter orangey mattes, but then I used every shade in this palette, and I love this one. This is not going anywhere. So yes, Urban Decay Born to Run does deserve a mention in this video. Okay, now let's move to Sigma, another brand which I have discovered recently. So not long ago, I used to own Sigma Enchanted palette because Kelly Gooch raved about that palette. I would absolutely love each and every eyeshadow look she would do using that palette. And during the sale time, I think in 2021, I picked up that palette. It was a gorgeous palette, and that's my step into Sigma eyeshadow formula. Then Sigma Enchanted. Like I mentioned, Kelly Gooch introduced me to this palette. This is for me another fall palette. Of course, you might be thrown off by these lighter tones, but like I said, if you cover this part, this is completely a fall story for me. And I don't mind golds and also greens. I love gold and greens in fall overall because it complements my skin tone, it complements my brown eyes. So then I think this is a perfect fall palette for me. I do use this golden and this greenish shade a lot during the fall, and these are like my absolute favorite. These are more of the topper shades, so the thing is you can basically use it on top of any of the mattes here. I like to use these shades on top of this darker green, deeper green. And then another Sigma palette which has made its way into my collection recently, but I have grown to love that palette a lot. It has been one of my most used palette probably this summer, and that is Sigma Ambiance. This is again a neutral toned palette. This is completely different from Naked Honey. It is like most of the shades are neutral, yet some of them are warmer leaning, some of them are like neutral leaning. I absolutely love this shade. This is like your quick no-brainer kind of palette. You can just pick it up, use 2 of the mattes and then 2 of the shimmers, and then you're good to go. Probably that's why it was my most used palette. When I thought, okay, I don't know what to do about my makeup, I would just pick this palette up. So I would say Sigma Ambience is another one in my fall palette list, definitely. The next palette I want to talk about is another one of which is quite new in my collection, and I have used it only twice, but I can see it getting used in my makeup collection more in this fall, definitely, and that is Sigma New Mod. This is how Sigma New Mod looks like. I absolutely love this taupey shade here, and also this grungy gold, bronzy gold. These are like my favorite tones, and also this cool toned brown. Absolutely love it. So mauve tones are another one which I lean towards a lot, and I think this one has really gorgeous mauve tones. You can get a mauve look, you can get a little bit of berry leaning look from this one, and I absolutely am. I did 2 look with this palette and I loved both of them. This is like the champagne pink I was talking about. So Sigma New Mod is definitely my pick for fall palettes this year. Now I think we have mentioned 3 Sigma palettes. I wanted to mention another one, and that is again have been in my collection for some time, but I have not used it quite a lot because I got it end of last year, and probably in the winter, during the winter time, and but these are not the tones I would reach for otherwise. But I have used this palette only once now, and then I think I'm going to use it more this fall, definitely, for sure. These are the shades I'm talking about. There is this murky brown, and then there is a deep green, and then these 2 shimmers, like you know the drill, like grungy metallic, and yeah, lumpy grungy metallic. That's my fall vibe. So then I think this is going to be my pick for fall palettes this year. Those were all the Sigma palettes I wanted to talk about. Now I have 2 ABH palettes that I wanted to talk about as my fall pick. I saw a lot of people mentioned ABH Nouveau, but for me, in my brain, that's not a fall palette for me. That I have seen it in many people's fall palette list, but I think the lavender shade in that palette just kind of throws me off. And I'm not sure why, but for me, in my brain, it just doesn't feel like a fall palette for me. For me, it's more like a spring and also transition kind of a palette whenever I'm in mood for green looks. So yeah, I have two other ABH palettes to talk about. However, I absolutely love ABH Nouveau, by the way. But that's definitely in my brain, and that's not a fall palette for me personally. I am going to mention the two palettes here, which are the first one is ABH Soft Glam, and like I said, it is used. It is used, absolutely. And this is again a neutral palette pick for fall, because this is not neutral. This is like the warm neutrals, and then I absolutely love this bronze. The shade name is Bronze and also the Sultry. Bronze and Sultry, and this Mulberry shade is my absolute favorite for the fall. These three are probably my most used, and if I want to go, I would go Burnt Orange in the crease. So these are like this is my most done look out of this palette. So ABH Soft Glam is another pick for me. Another ABH palette which I like to mention here is a newer one, and I prefer the newer formula. I do use the older formula, but I'm not really a fan of it because it's messy, and I like to do my base before I do my eyes. So then for me, that personal reason, I'm not really a fan of the old formula, but newer formula, I'm all game about it. I love ABH's newer formula, and the palette which I'm going to mention is this one, ABH Rose Metals palette. This is a grungy dream. I love each and every shade, especially the shimmers. I absolutely love these shimmers. These are grungy at best. This is quite a smoky palette, so this isn't like every look you're gonna get out of it is gonna be smoky. But I think the fall weather, if I'm wearing a black sweater and or darker like black or olive sweater, this look I'm getting out of this palette is going to complement that. And then I absolutely love this one, especially these two shimmers. These are like my dream. This is, again, I'm gonna be using this palette this fall. This is my second pick from ABH for fall palettes. Now let's talk about palettes from my favorite brand, probably when it comes to eyeshadow palettes, and that is Natasha Denona. And I have 5 palettes here, I think, as my fall picks. And yeah, let's start with the very obvious one, which is probably everybody knows that it is everybody's pick for fall favorite if they own this palette. That is Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. When this palette was released, the reviews were like really good. I did not own any Natasha Denona palettes at that time, and I was like, $100 for a palette is €100 for a palette is a lot, and I did not want to spend that much on that palette. And it was a limited edition, and then it got out of stock everywhere. And then even after a year and a half, I could not get this palette out of my mind. I know I'm not really fond of warm tones, but this palette somehow was stuck in my head. And then I took the leap. I bought it off Vinted. It was quite like, it was brand new on Vinted. Somebody was selling it for quite a good deal, and I gifted it myself last year. I was on no buy, but I was allowed only on special occasion gift for myself, and then I bought it on my birthday, and I don't regret it. This is Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. I love this one. If I would like to keep only one warm tone palette, this is gonna be it. I absolutely love Natasha's formula. I do not have problem with any of the formulas. She has even cream to powder formula. I absolutely love it. And this is fall in a palette. Like I said, if I have to choose only 2 palettes, probably Metropolis and Urban Decay Born to Run. Those 2 are gonna be my only 2 picks for fall palettes. But these are definitely, you know, you get probably every shade for fall here. Absolutely love this one. So this is Natasha Denona Metropolis. The next one I want to mention is probably a surprise for many of the people, and that is going to be Natasha Denona Zeno palette. So this is how my Natasha Denona Zeno palette looks like. The review for this palette was not so great when it was released. I wanted to try it out because these grungy greens on this corner were screaming my name, because this is the kind of greens and blues I like to use. Quite grungy, not in your face. I rarely use a bright green or bright blue. That's not my makeup preference. I like to use the muted ones and also a little bit of grungier side colorful metallics. So then I picked it up and I don't regret it. I absolutely love the shade. This shade, Mindful, this brown is her, I think, cream to powder. This is a really, really gorgeous brown shade. I absolutely love this one. I used it on only as a one and done eyeshadow on my eyes, and I absolutely loved this one. And I just used this luster, which is kind of a warm toned golden shade, in my inner corner. It was a beautiful look. So I absolutely think this is also a color story which is quite fall appropriate. So Natasha Denona Zeno palette in Asense is another one of my picks. Now, next Natasha Denona palette that I want to mention for my fall favorite is Natasha Denona Bronze palette. So this is my Natasha Denona Bronze palette. I love this one. This is quite a repetitive palette, but then I agree that every bronze has a different undertone. For someone who loves to different undertones, I can differentiate between the looks I can get. It's even for being a monotonous, like, themed palette, there is quite a lot of variety, because then you have like the peachier bronze, and then you have the proper neutral bronze, then the same theme you have a little bit of warmer bronze. So then you get variety of everything, a little bit of everything. And also the golds here are also three. There are three golds, and all three of those are different. One is a little bit of neutral tone, one is a little bit warmer tone, and one is just like in your face yellow gold. So I absolutely adore this one. This is again one of my all year round pick, but then another recommendation for fall palette, definitely from my collection. Then there are two newer palettes in my collection from Natasha Denona that I want to mention as my fall favorite picks. The one which I'm mentioning is pretty new, and I have used it only once. And that is Natasha Denona Retro Glam. This is released, I think, this year, not sure when, because I do not usually buy palettes on the release. I usually wait for some time and then see if I still long for that palette, or if there is still a gap in my palette collection that palette would serve purpose for, and also if I get a good deal on it. So then I wait for it, and then I wait for the good deal on it, and then I purchase it. So this palette, I picked up this palette because there is nothing like this in my collection. The greens here are, I don't own any pastel palettes. I don't own any green, like olivey green palettes anymore. So then I picked this one up. Yet I have created a look using these three shades. And then I popped this shade called Faye. This is like the green, beigey green kind of shade. And I created the look using these four shades. And it turned out to be gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And then I think this is a color story which is not really, I would say, fall appropriate. But then I would reach for it in the fall, because I do see this beautiful, like, raspberry kind of shade which I can get out of. I would like to pair it with this beautiful green shade and create a like fall look out of it. I can't wait to create a look out of this, but for me this is also gonna be pick for the fall. I also saw Natasha Denona Yucca palette mentioned in a lot of fall favorite videos, but I don't own that, and the reason for that is not my aesthetic, and I think I will not be able to get use out of that palette as much as other people can. And also the looks I saw, most of the time the looks were one or the other version of the same aesthetic, and that's why I did not purchase that one. Another palette which is I picked it up this year, and I wanted to use it, but I again used it only twice, and then that is again gonna be my all year round pick, but I would love to use it and reach it in fall, is Retro palette. The reviews were split on this one, and then I would like to show you the look I created. So these are the four shades. This is my most, like, I used this palette twice, and both the times I used the exact same combo of the palette. So you can see the exact four shades which are used twice from this palette. But definitely this is another one of my fall picks. So Natasha Denona Retro. Those were my 5 Natasha Denona palettes. And now let's move to, I'm looking at my notes by the way. Let's move to Huda. So I have 2 Huda palettes here. One is mini and one is her regular size palettes. So let's talk about mini first. So this is Wild Jaguar palette. This is last year's release, I guess, and this is from the Wild collection. And then as soon as I saw this color story, I was like, this is absolutely up my stream. I used this palette, I think, a lot of times, and I feel like I use Huda's palettes and I think I can barely move the pans in them. This is my favorite look out of that palette. The brown, so this brown, and then this green and this green, and then the golden. This is my favorite look out of this palette. I absolutely love this one. This is another one of my fall picks. So this is like your grungy green dream in a palette. Absolutely love this one. If you can get it still on Huda's site, it is, I think it is often on sale on Huda's site. If you can get it, I would definitely recommend it. Her mini palettes are really good quality. The next palette, the full size palette I want to mention, is an older one, and that is Naughty Nude. This palette was gifted to me by my sister-in-law, and I can't thank her enough that she did it. This is again a neutral palette with a twist of like mauve touch. Huda's mattes do lean a little bit towards like the pinkier mauvier side, and not the browner side, and I do reach for pinky mauvey tones quite a lot. I find these tones quite flattering on me. I traveled with only 2 palettes when I went for my brother's wedding this year, January, and this was one of them. And this was probably the only palette I reached for throughout the wedding. I created lots of variety of looks from this one. I love it. And this is again my fall pick from Huda for this fall. Then those were only 2 palettes I wanted to mention from Huda. These were the palettes which were multiples from brands. Now I'm going to mention 5 more eyeshadow palettes which are from different brands. So 1 from each brand. So then next palette I'm going to talk about is Too Faced Pumpkin Spice. You know, Too Faced releases something fall themed every year. And then I also got this as a gift from my friend, and this is Pumpkin Spice palette. This is how it looks like. I have used it. I have not used this palette for really long time now, but I think I have mostly reached for the greens, the purples, yeah, and I think one time I reached for this mustardy shade. This is quite beautiful, quite unique tones of mattes in this palette particularly. I absolutely love the green, this one here, the green tones here, and then these 2 purple tones also. So these are like metallic. One of them is metallic, one of them is like flakier. The same like goes for the greens. These are the shades. These are the most used shades from this palette for me. So yeah, Too Faced Pumpkin Spice. Next palette I want to mention is the Tartelette Toasted palette. I used it. This is really amazing. I love the mattes are not as tightly pressed as Urban Decay one, but definitely these 2 are not same palette. I cannot get same look out of both the palettes. The tones are different. The golden, this one has this golden shade which is absolutely gorgeous, which is on my inner corners today, in combination with the Urban Decay Naked Heat. So I have Urban Decay Naked Heat and Dark Toasted on my eyes as a complementary palette. So this is also absolutely amazing. It is not as mom toned as I expected, so then, which is a good thing. So then I think I will get more use out of it than I expected, and I got it on pretty good deal. So I'm pretty happy about it, and I'm absolutely recommending it as a fall palette for me. If you have it, you need to pull it out of your collection. Next palette that I'm going to mention is from ColourPop, and you can get it. Sometimes they have it in stock, sometimes they don't. And this is from their Disney Villains collection. This is Misunderstood palette. I have also contemplated for getting this one for a really long time, to get it, to not get it, because, and then ColourPop, I have to order ColourPop from US, and then you have to pay for the duties and shipping and blah blah blah. And then I was like, then it's not in the stock when you want to buy it. So then all the ordeal, and then I also got it from Vinted, and this is how it looks like. This was not used at all. This was probably a couple of shades were swatched, and then this is how it looks like now. This is, again, you see, grungy metallics. This is my vibe. I absolutely love this one. This green and this green is my favorite from this palette. I love, probably these are the grungy greens if I'm going to wear it anytime. That's probably in fall. I love it. This bronze, it has my heart. And this orangey blue tone shade. This is, again, I love this palette. This is also a good ColourPop formula. Now, last two palettes that I'm going to talk about are the smaller ones. One is 6-pan eyeshadow palette from Asense. This is bronzed this way, and this is how it looks like. I love this one. Again, this for fall. I have used it a lot in summer, and also I love to use it in fall. This is, if you don't like warm tones like me, in your face, like bright oranges or bright like warm tones, then this is something you will really enjoy. If you have this, pull it out, use it this fall. I am definitely gonna do this. There is a lot of movement on this already, so I'm pretty sure this is very loved palette. I love it. This is my another fall recommendation. And last but not the least, I'm going to mention is from Pat McGrath Star Wars collection. This is a quaint 5-pan eyeshadow palette, and this is Sith Seduction. This has all the metallic shades, and I'm mentioning it here because these are all the grungy metallics, and this can be a complementary palette for a lot of palettes I've mentioned here. And this has like the intense metallics. It's like this orange and this green, and let me tell you, like this taupey coat, this taupe shade, love it. I absolutely love these shades. These are like super nice. This is another one. So this was the last palette in my fall palette list. So wow, we made it through. If you have made it through here, thank you so much for watching. We have talked about 21 palettes here. So I've talked about 3 palettes from Urban Decay, 4 palettes from Sigma, 2 palettes from ABH, 5 palettes from Natasha, Denona, 2 palettes from Huda, 1 from Tarte, 1 from Too Faced, 1 from ColourPop, 1 Asense, and 1 Pat McGrath. So let's wrap it up with the video. Those were my 21 eyeshadow palettes for fall, and I love each and every one of them. Please let me know if you have any favorite fall palette, if you feel like something is missing from the list, and which is your favorite fall palette, and which is I've not mentioned. That is possible, I might not even own it, but then I would love to know your favorite fall palettes. And also, what is your fall vibe? Do you love warm, bright yellows and oranges and bright shades, or do you also lean towards like the murky, grungy vibe for the fall? Let me know in the comment section below. And then, you know, the light is changed again because the sun is setting. That is all for today's video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to see more such videos, please let me know in the comment section below. If you want to check out more product reviews, please visit my blog sensitive.com. All my social links will be mentioned in the description box below. Have a good night, good day, wherever you are, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye bye.